We've been talking a little national politics. Joining me right now on the phones, political analyst and Republican strategist, Ford OConnell. Ford, welcome back to the show. We had you on, I think it was last year or year before last, to talk about your book, The 10-Step Playbook for Republican Recovery, which people can get on Amazon. Welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's always good to be back on the air in my native state of Texas.
Well, great to have you on, and let's talk a little national politics and a little Donald Trump. You've been tweeting out some numbers that I've also was just bringing up in the last segment, which is some new polling data out of swing states that, for me, when I look at national polls this early on, I'm pretty dismissive of them, but statewide polls, I view those a little different, and for Republicans and for Donald Trump, he's got to like what he's seen right now.
He absolutely does. For the past 5 months, we've been talking about 1,237 delegates, what is needed to win on the Republican side the nomination. Now it's time to start talking about 270 electoral votes, what it takes for a general election candidate to win the White House in 2016. And frankly, right now, Trump's most realistic path to the White House includes the states that Romney won in 2012, plus Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, and that would give him 273. And right now in Florida, despite what the mainstream media says, Trump is only trailing Hillary Clinton by 1. In Ohio, he's up by 4, and in Pennsylvania, he's down by 1. If you look at these numbers very closely, you start to realize that this could be an election only made for a divorce lawyer, because men are overwhelmingly going for Trump and women are overwhelmingly going for Clinton.
Is this a race where, and I've seen a few headlines, the lesser of two evils, the two most hated candidates, and voters are going to choose from the I guess the more favorable of the least liked candidates? Or do you think Republicans in particular, will rally around Donald Trump?
Well, let me say this. It's being framed as which candidate do you like least, but I think that could quickly change. I'm looking at some other polling numbers out of PPP, which is a Democratic firm, which is actually showing that the GOP registered Republican voter is starting to actually unify around Donald Trump in a stronger fashion than Democrats currently are around Hillary Clinton. Of course, this is all subject to change, but I'm going to say this. If Donald Trump can show himself to be competitive with Hillary Clinton in a general election matchup, I think many of his, quote, unity problems will dissipate.
Yeah, and we're visiting with Ford OConnell. This is something that I wanted to talk to you about, the unity issue. Donald Trump has said before he doesn't feel as though he has to unite the entire party. You have the NeverTrump crowd out there, includes Eric Erickson and some other prominent Republicans, Bill Kristol. Is that group, do you think that group, the closer we get to the convention and then after the convention, do you think that group is going to die off?
I think that if Donald Trump uses the next 10 weeks wisely, which is the time now between this week and the convention in mid-July in Cleveland, I think a lot of them are going to go away. The idea of a third-party candidate is always something that's interesting to talk about, but it's something where you have to actually have a candidate, have the mechanics, and the money. I really think these folks are barking up the wrong tree with respect to winning the White House in 2016 because, in my opinion personally, I just think the stakes are too high because if Hillary Clinton wins the White House in 2016, she's very likely to win a second term and is probably going to put out 3 to 4 Supreme Court justices. And in today's divided landscape, you have more power to change the cultural fabric of America through the United States Supreme Court than you do in one party holding the White House and the United States Senate for a 4-year period.
Yeah. So Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, he's supposed to meet with Trump Thursday. He has said before that he is not ready to endorse Donald Trump. He has not said that he won't vote for him. He just said, I have my reservations. There are a lot of conservatives who have their reservations about Donald Trump. What do you anticipate happening between these two on Thursday? And then is Paul Ryan in danger of being out of step with the average Republican voter?
Okay, I think, first of all, the media has taken this whole sort of Trump-Ryan rift out of context. They're always looking for a story that they can go bananas on, and I think a lot of this is political theater. Look, Paul Ryan may not support Donald Trump by the end of their meeting later this week, but Ryan will ultimately support Trump and try to bring as many of his House conservative colleagues with him. And the reason why I'm so sure is that Ryan's already said that launching a third-party bid against Trump would be disastrous. Yeah. And on late Monday, he even tried to give Trump an out in this situation because Ryan's also the chair of the Republican National Convention, and he said he'd step aside if that's what Trump wants. Whether or not Trump realizes it, Ryan's trying to help him because Ryan realizes the stakes of the election, and he also recognizes that he can't just endorse Trump and have this whole situation be done. What he wants to do is he wants to be seen as having a thoughtful conversation with Trump, airing out the grievances of conservatives, and dragging as many of his House members over to Trump as soon as possible. So I think that Ryan's actually trying to help Trump, and I think that Trump is starting to realize that.
Ford, let me ask you this. Last week, Karl Rove was, I guess, giving some advice to Donald Trump out there, and he said that Trump he could win this if he tones it down. The Trump supporters out there, I don't know if they would like that about Donald Trump. I don't know if they want a sedated Donald Trump. Would you tell Donald Trump to tone it down or keep going the way he's been going?
Well, Donald Trump is a unique political animal, and the key for Trump is to whatever he decides to do, he has to make sure that he doesn't lose that working class message and that cult of personality. I'm in a very different camp than a lot of other strategists like Rove and others who really want Trump to make some major changes. I really would like to see him just move about a 35-degree change in the sense that he needs to cut down a little bit on the conspiracy theories and some of the name-calling because most people don't follow this like you and I do. Tone and rhetoric goes a long way. But if it changes Trump in such that he's a very different person and becomes a little bit of an uptight stick in the mud like Mitt Romney, then I don't want him to change at all. I think it's going to have to be a comfortability thing with Trump. I think he could make some changes, but I think he can win. I've been very bullish on him since August on that front with respect to a general election.
What do you anticipate a Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton general election matchup? What is the race going to look like, you think?
A lot of people don't realize this, but about 40 states, are not in play, no matter what happens. Chad, I know you're not a Democrat, but you could be the Democratic nominee, and I could be the Republican nominee, and I can go to sleep from now until Election Day and know that 40 states are pretty safe. Yeah. The key for Trump is to open up the map as wide as possible, and what that means is showing that he's competitive in Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, some of the industrial Midwestern states, and start really putting Hillary Clinton back on his heels. This is a war of attrition. You and I are both football fans, and we're battling over inches on the map, across the electoral map. And if he can really start to get that ground game going, I think he can really do this. I mean, you have to realize that there's really only about 10 states in play, and of those 10 states, he's going to have to win 6 or 7 of them. The most important state, the microcosm for the entire election, is going to be Florida, where it comes back to Trump being able to continue to be that unique political animal who does not change his working class message but is able to mitigate his losses with Hispanics and unmarried women. And if he can do that and he can run through Florida faster than Sherman ran through Georgia, I really like his chances.
Final question before I let you go, Ford. What kind of VP does Donald Trump need? It seems like everyone is saying no.
Well, everyone has an opinion, and I don't think anyone knows it. I'm certainly sure at this juncture that Trump doesn't know. Here's the penultimate question. Can we get to July and in Cleveland, and if he's unified the base, he's going to go with someone who's more like Joni Ernst or Marco Rubio, someone who complements him in areas that he may be a little bit weaker. But if he's not able to unify the base, I'd look for someone who's more conservative, not saying this person, but of the ilk of a Ted Cruz. But if he's able to get that base, I really like where his chances are in the general election.
Visiting with Ford OConnell. You can follow him on Twitter, Ford OConnell. They're on Twitter. And, of course, you can find his book on Amazon, 10-Step Playbook for Republican Recovery. Ford, we're going to be visiting with you throughout the election season. I appreciate you coming on.
You got it, my friend. Talk soon.
Have a good one. That's Ford OConnell. Follow him on Twitter, Ford OConnell. They're on Twitter.